I'm a 55-year-old man who recently uncovered that my 52-year-old wife was unfaithful with a younger man. To my dismay, I also discovered that our daughters were aware of this infidelity. A few years back, I realized that my wife had betrayed me, despite never showing any suspicious behavior. We had always presented ourselves as a strong and united couple, having been married for a quarter of a century. Together, we raised 3 daughters, who were 17, 20, and 23 years old, or at least that's what I believed until the truth came to light. The revelation began unexpectedly when I received a message from a woman. She informed me that her soon-to-be husband had confessed to cheating with a senior colleague at his workplace. He had admitted to the affair and provided the name of the woman involved. Intrigued and concerned, she conducted some research and discovered my identity. She felt that I deserved to know the truth about my wife's actions. I'm uncertain whether her intentions were to retaliate against my wife or if she genuinely believed that I should be informed, but regardless of her motives, it didn't matter much at the time. Initially, I was skeptical and didn't believe her story. However, as she shared more intricate details about the affair, the specific dates, the duration, the names of co-workers who were aware of the situation, and other pertinent information, it became increasingly clear that what she was saying was indeed true. The man involved had provided her with exhaustive details, including the name and address of the hotel where the affair took place, as well as my own home's address, indicating that he had invited her there. Additionally, he had given her his phone number and other personal information, which further validated the authenticity of the claims. Eventually, I had no choice but to confront the reality of the situation. The younger man was only 21 years old at the time, a fact that still boggles my mind. It's hard to fathom that my wife would engage in a relationship with someone so much younger. The affair occurred while I was on a business trip, a classic setup that, upon reflection, made me realize that my wife had likely orchestrated this situation. My business trips were planned months in advance, making it highly suspicious that she chose to cheat during the exact same period I was away. The timing seemed too deliberate to be a mere coincidence. At this point, my wife has become emotionally dead to me, and I am fully prepared to proceed with a divorce. I'm currently in the process of organizing the necessary financial matters and other logistics. One of my close friends had experienced a similar situation, and she advised me not to confront my wife directly. Her concern was that if I cornered her, she might react explosively. While I don't believe my wife would react that way, I understand that emotions can be unpredictable, so I chose to heed her advice. It has been incredibly difficult to witness my wife acting as if nothing has happened. She continues to plan our next holiday, discusses visits to our daughters, and maintains a semblance of normalcy despite the betrayal. Our eldest daughter works in a different city, the second is attending college, and the youngest is finishing high school. My wife behaves more like a flatmate now, and I feel like a ghost residing in our own home. My daily routine consists of waking up early, going to the gym, managing my business, returning home in the evening, and engaging in my personal activities. I suspect that my wife senses something is amiss, but her lack of concern only fuels my detachment. What hurts the most is that my daughters were aware of the affair. The man involved confessed to my daughter Toby that my wife had engaged in their affair while my daughter walked in on them kissing in our living room. My wife had believed that Toby would be at school all day, but evidently, my wife managed to calm her daughter and explain the situation, keeping it a secret from me. I'm unsure exactly what transpired, but my daughter never mentioned anything to me. Given how close my wife is with her 2 other daughters, I'm convinced that she shared the secret with them as well, and the 3 of them likely agreed to keep it quiet. This secrecy has left me feeling incredibly detached and isolated. Despite everything, I believe I was, and still am, a good father. I worked tirelessly on my business to ensure my daughters had the best opportunities, prioritizing their needs in every business decision to provide them with a debt-free college education and a strong start in their careers. I tried to be present at every significant moment in their lives, embodying the role of any dedicated father would. Of course, we had our ups and downs, but nothing as significant as this betrayal. They are my beloved daughters, and I always viewed them as my little princesses. Discovering that they knew about the affair deeply hurt me. Part of me thinks they kept it from me out of fear of destroying the family, which I understand, but the anger I feel inside continues to grow. We have a WhatsApp group where I often see them seeking advice or asking for help with things like a deposit for a flat. In those moments, I just want to scream and confront all of them, but I know it won't resolve anything. It would only provide a brief sense of relief, and then the pain would return. On one hand, I feel the urge to cut ties completely, close my bank accounts, and leave the house without saying a word. My friend advised against this, pointing out that the law doesn't look kindly on such actions, but the idea of leaving is becoming increasingly appealing. I don't want to engage in conversations or try to understand their perspectives right now. I just want to escape somewhere like Thailand, relax on a beach for a few months, and maybe, in time, I'll feel ready to listen. Or perhaps I won't. I'm not interested in hearing their apologies or regrets for not telling me sooner. They had 3 years to address this, yet they looked me in the eyes and remained silent. I'm baffled by how they managed to maintain a poker face and continue behaving as usual. It feels like the four of them have mastered manipulation, and the anger within me shows no signs of dissipating. If I were in your shoes, what would you do? Reconciliation with my wife is completely out of the question. She repulses me. The fact that she continues to act like a loving wife only intensifies my anger. I'm grateful to my friend for sharing her experience, which helped me view the situation from an external perspective. I need advice regarding my daughters. Part of me wants to reach out, while another part feels they don't deserve a chance to come clean, as it might now be too late. I'm utterly lost. Thank you all for reading this lengthy account. It took me a considerable amount of time to write, but it somehow feels relieving. **edit****. Hi everyone, I've read all your comments and wanted to add an update so that everyone can understand my current thoughts and situation. I'm not entirely sure how Reddit handles edits, but I hope this works. My lawyer has already begun the divorce process. He assured me that since my daughters are grown up, alimony won't be an issue. As for spousal support, my wife might request it, but given that she is employed and financially stable, the judge will likely deny her request. We maintain a joint account solely for shared expenses, while we each have our individual bank accounts. This was strong advice from my parents, to avoid putting everything into a joint account when both partners are working, and I'm incredibly grateful for that guidance. My lawyer mentioned that my wife could argue for a portion of my business if I decide to sell it, but since she is gainfully employed, we can contest that claim. Honestly, I'm not too concerned about these financial matters right now. I know I should reach out to my daughters, and you all are absolutely right. The reason I haven't is because the anger inside me is overwhelming and persistent. If one of them brings something up that clashes with my feelings, I fear I might lose control. Additionally, I suspect my wife manipulated them to keep the secret, and reacting violently would only exacerbate the situation. While the anger might be misplaced, I want to clarify that I didn't hate my wife initially when I learned about the affair. My anger eventually turned into indifference. I will divorce her, and she will be separated from our children, but I cannot harbor hate towards my daughters. I do have feelings for them, but right now, those feelings are overshadowed by anger. I believe my youngest daughter shared the secret with her sisters because they've always been very close, supporting one another, which I'm proud of. It's hard to believe she kept it entirely to herself. However, as someone suggested, I'm not entirely certain. In any case, I don't want to place blame on them. I understand their perspective. If they felt they couldn't reveal the truth to avoid breaking the family apart, I can see why they kept it hidden. Nonetheless, accepting the dishonesty is incredibly difficult. Part of me feels as though they sided with their cheating mother, which complicates my emotions further. I recognize the need for time alone to process everything, especially since I haven't had much time recently with a wife, 3 daughters, and a business to manage. My only personal time is at the gym, but it's insufficient to dissipate the anger I feel. In my current situation, it would seem strange if I were to tell them I'm taking a month-long trip and then actually leave for Hawaii. Paternity tests, STD screenings, and other health checks are obvious next steps. I have an appointment at a clinic and plan to undergo all necessary tests, including paternity tests. However, I question the point. If worst comes to a scenario where they are not my biological daughters, does it truly matter? I raised them for 2 decades, blood relations shouldn't define our bond. If they aren't my biological children, the responsibility lies with the mother, not them. I can't hold them accountable for her actions. Perhaps the woman who initially contacted me was lying, which was my first thought. With 3 grown daughters, I thought our marriage was strong. My initial response was to express sympathy but skepticism about her story. However, as she provided more details and evidence, doubts began to surface within me, and they didn't fade. I conducted my own investigation, and as you can imagine, it's easier to find clues when you know what you're looking for. I'm not someone who lives in denial. Facts are facts, and no matter how painful, you have to confront the truth. From what I understood, my wife and the other man were preparing for their wedding. I don't know what became of him, but it appears he felt compelled to confess his actions. The next step was to sever all ties and move forward. I assume that many of the comments I received are from people without children, who might not fully grasp the implications of leaving like that. What I mean is that I would take a period of time to process everything and, once I've healed, we could talk. However, it won't be the same. I love my daughters, and they love me, but the dynamics have irrevocably changed. No matter how angry I am, I feel I can't simply abandon them, especially if my youngest daughter didn't share the secret and kept it to herself. Leaving would devastate her, and my other two daughters might resent her for her silence. This is my nightmare scenario, and I might be foolish for even considering it, but as their father, my role is to protect them. I plan to have my lawyer expedite the paperwork and serve my wife with the divorce papers. On the day she receives them, I intend to Skype with my daughters, who live in different states, to have a collective discussion and clarify everything. I want to handle it all on the same day to prevent them from confiding in their mother and having her manipulate the situation by portraying herself as the victim. I want her to believe I'm unaware until I'm ready to address the situation myself. As of now, it's Sunday, and I hope that by next week, all the necessary documents will be prepared so I can finally have an open discussion with my girls. Following many of your suggestions, I took my youngest daughter out to lunch last week. During our meal, I asked her if there was anything she wanted to share with me. Whether it was my expression or tone, she immediately understood the implication and broke down, divulging the entire story. She had witnessed her mother kissing another man a few years ago in our home. Apparently, my ex-wife told the man to leave and then sat down with our daughter. She explained that it was a momentary lapse in judgment but was grateful that our daughter intervened. She assured our daughter that it was a one-time mistake and pleaded with her not to disclose it to me, fearing that I would abandon her and our family upon learning the truth. My daughter revealed that she agreed to keep the secret because she believed her mother. Later on, she shared the information with my two other daughters, who were understandably shocked. My eldest daughter found the story hard to believe, thinking it was too convenient that my youngest had happened to walk into the living room and catch them kissing for the first time. She told her sisters not to worry and assured them that she would handle the situation with their mother. I couldn't be prouder of her for taking on such a heavy burden. From what my youngest knows, it seems that my eldest daughter spoke to their mother about her infidelity. If she didn't come clean to me, they would inform me. However, over the past few years, their mother always had valid excuses to delay this revelation, be it work-related issues, a sick relative, or other reasons, to avoid adding more stress to my already challenging situation. At the end of our lunch, I informed her that I would be calling her two sisters to discuss the matter further. She insisted on being part of the conversation, which was fair enough. I reached out to my two daughters, telling them I needed to talk to them immediately. We quickly arranged a call, and part of me suspects they already knew what I wanted to discuss. I informed them that their sister had told me about what happened with their mother, prompting both of them to start crying and apologizing, expressing their regret for not telling me sooner. In summary, I assured them that I wasn't angry with them and apologized for the burden they had to carry alone. I reiterated my love for them and explained that I would be leaving because I couldn't stay with someone who had betrayed me. However, I also mentioned that I would talk to their mother before making any final decisions, as it was the least I could do. I asked them not to discuss anything with their mother since I planned to have a conversation that very evening. By the end of the day, when I returned home, my wife was already there, casually talking about her day as usual. I mentioned that I had an interesting discussion with our daughter, and she immediately sensed what I was referring to. She began sobbing, insisting that it was just a kiss and explaining that she knew how much I valued trust, especially concerning my business. She was afraid of losing me over what she considered a minor mistake. Honestly, I expected her crying to elicit sympathy, but it didn't. I told her that she would receive the divorce papers the next day via courier, and we would move forward from there. After that, I went to our bedroom, packed some clothes, and left. I didn't have a destination in mind, I simply couldn't remain in our home any longer. I booked a hotel downtown and called my youngest daughter to inform her that I wouldn't be staying at home that night. She mentioned that she was planning to stay with a friend to avoid facing her mother but offered to stay with me since I was away. Naturally, I let my two other daughters know that their sister and I would be staying at a hotel for the night, and they requested to join the conversation together, to which I agreed. During our discussion, I outlined the next steps as advised by my lawyer and reassured them that they are my daughters and that I love them unconditionally. Despite advice from almost everyone, I couldn't help but express that a part of me was hurt they hadn't told me sooner. I conveyed that I believed we shared a strong bond and could discuss anything openly. They began crying and apologizing, so I reminded them that regardless of what happened, they are my daughters and I love them deeply. However, I also mentioned that it would take some time for me to return to normal behavior. I shared my thoughts about taking a long trip to clear my mind, and my eldest daughter supported the idea, suggesting that if I felt the need to do so, I should go ahead. The next morning, my daughter and I were having breakfast when my wife called. Initially, I didn't want to answer the phone, but my daughter insisted that I talk to her. I agreed but put her on speaker. As soon as I answered, I could tell she had been drinking all night. She began crying, telling me she loves me and that we are meant to be together, claiming that the situation would be devastating for the kids. I explained that the kids are now adults and no longer need us in the same way. We provided them with the best we could, and now they need to build their own lives. Suddenly, she became very hostile, threatening to take everything I own, ensuring that my company would go bankrupt, and accusing me of physically abusing her. I was utterly shocked and could only stare at my daughter, who was also in disbelief over what she was hearing. I decided to end the conversation abruptly, informing her that my lawyer would be in touch with her. We didn't exchange any further words. It felt as though the person I had known for 2 decades had transformed into someone unrecognizable. 5 minutes later, my wife sent a message saying they need to talk. My daughter was scared, so I advised her not to respond. It was clear that my wife was intoxicated, and nothing productive would come from that discussion. I informed her that I would be staying at the hotel until everything was settled and that she was welcome to stay with me if she wished. We then had another group call with my 2 other daughters to explain what had transpired, and as you can imagine, they were completely astonished. I met with my lawyer to discuss the developments, and he assured me that I didn't need to worry. My wife holds a strong professional position and is financially stable. I own a business that employs between 5 to 100 people, so a judge wouldn't jeopardize that by making unfavorable decisions against me. Given her comfortable financial situation, she would likely receive half of our shared assets, such as houses and cars. However, financially, she shouldn't have access to my personal savings, nor should she be able to claim anything from my business. My daughter expressed concern about returning to our house with her mother, fearing she might be blamed for the situation. I told her I would secure a place downtown where she could stay with me, either temporarily until she felt ready to return home or until she began college. It seems that the way her mother lashed out on the phone deeply disturbed her, so I offered to help her find someone to talk to, such as a counselor, if she felt the need. My wife received the divorce papers and, as expected, reacted violently with both our families. Her family tried to contact us, but my eldest daughter blocked them from my side. My brother, who knows me well, offered his support, assuring me that I wouldn't do anything drastic without reason. Now, the divorce process is underway, and my daughter is staying with me until she feels comfortable returning home. My wife may have sent me messages, but my lawyer strongly advised against responding, as there's nothing to gain and everything to lose by engaging with her. As for me, I don't plan to go to Thailand until I'm certain that my youngest daughter is in a safe and stable place. If I do decide to leave, it will likely be next year after she finishes high school. I'm unsure how our daily lives will unfold moving forward, but for now, I don't intend to provide another update unless something significant occurs. Once again, I want to express my gratitude for all the support you've offered. I never imagined I'd find myself in such a situation, and I hope no one else has to endure something similar. Thank you all for being there.